one. Anthony Hartwig with the first ever special guest on the Hot Corner blog, Jen Gilbert. Jen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thanks for having me.
So YSN, we cover high school sports. That's what our passion is. You were a great high school student athlete. You were a standout. Talk about some of your high school experiences, some of the memories from your high school team that really stick out to you over in McKinney High School.
Yeah, goodness, that was this would be my 10-year high school reunion. It's really hard to believe, but I think some of my favorite memories were spent, for those that know Ashley Thomas. Ashley played with me on the Akron Racers when we were in the NPF together, and her and I went to high school together. We graduated the same class, and just a lot of the memories that I had with Ash, they're just like the fun memories that I will always remember in high school. Love the other girls that I graduated with. Ash and I were really the only ones that I think went and played a full career in college. She played at Georgia Tech, and then I obviously was at Ball State. But yeah, just like we just grew up together throughout high school. We would always we actually played on a travel ball team for I think like maybe 1 or 2 seasons together, and that's actually how I met her. I knew her as a travel ball teammate before we were in high school, because I actually moved high schools in the middle of my sophomore, so grade 10 year. And there were just like so many times we would, friends would ask us, hey, like, let's go to a movie, or let's go hang out at somebody's house, like so-and-so's house. And we both were like, can't, we have softball, sorry, like we'll catch up later. So it was just really cool to have like a friend that was at your school, because we all have like multiple friends obviously, but not all of us have, somebody that plays softball with you. So it was just kind of cool to have that commonality with her, and to kind of share that I guess sacrifice, you would call it, to be the best softball players that we could be. So yeah, love Ash.
Yeah, and you talk Ashley Thomas. I mean, you guys went to high school together, and then you end up on the same professional team. That had to be like a major swing of coincidence down there, where all of a sudden,
Oh yeah.
So what was that kind of like, running in and going up, and you both played in Division I, but maybe both your senior years, you both kind of knew you had a shot at professional league. Did you guys contact each other and like say,
Yeah,
hey, this could happen?
Yeah, Ash actually, she played for Charlotte Morgan, was one of her assistant coaches at Tech, and Charlotte had played for the Racers. And so Ashley was she would text me like, hey, do you know anybody from the Racers? Because our conference tournament for Ball State was at Firestone Stadium, where the Racers, that's their home stadium. And she just would ask me like, oh, like, do you know anybody there? Like, I'm going to try and get drafted or maybe try out and play for the Racers this summer. And I told her like, no, like, I don't really know anybody there, but that would be so, so cool. And I know Joey Arrieta, after that conversation, Joey Arrieta had reached out to me and kind of just talked about the Racers and everything. And so we both didn't really know like if we were both going to be Racers, but when draft night came, like, of course, I think every college senior is watching that night is draft night to the NPF that plays softball. So yeah, like, my name was called, and I was just like obviously super, super excited. Like, this was a dream come true to, be drafted to a professional team, and especially the Racers, because that has been like my home for our conference tournament for my entire college career. And then Ashley's name was called, and like I was still like, my teammates still like say like, you were more excited for Ashley, and I was like, yeah, like, you get to play, like, what an incredible story, right? To play professional, like, softball and start your professional career with your high school best friend. Like, that was just, like, so, so awesome.
We'll talk more about your professional career later, but we'll talk about your recruitment process out of high school, and what was it like, and what made you kind of gravitate towards Ball State in Muncie?
Yeah, so I played for a former Division I college coach on my travel ball team that I was recruited for to Ball State, and she kind of just instructed us, make a list of probably, I think it was 15 schools that had something that you wanted to major in. And I fortunately knew what I wanted to study. I know a lot of athletes are like, I have no idea what I want to study, but I wanted to be a college softball coach. And so I was looking for a major that was something in human performance or biomechanics or something along those lines. And Ball State had exercise science, which is what my degree is in. And at the time, they also had a minor in athletic coaching. So like obviously they were on my list. And then also what was important to me was a high caliber softball program with a high caliber coach. And Coach Nicholson fit that agenda. He has coached numerous teams, like everywhere he's gone. He has won like national championships for JUCO. He won a lot of conference championships with Ball State. He's right now at a school in South Texas, A&M Kingsville, and last year was his second year with that program, and they ended up going all the way to the national championship game and getting second place. So, and he had also coached in the NPF, he coached for the Chicago Bandits. So I knew right off the bat, and he's also Canadian, I'll just throw that in there. That wasn't a like requirement for me, but it was just kind of cool. He was like, yeah, I'm Canadian too. And I was like talking with him in the recruiting process. But so I just wanted to go somewhere where I could be successful academically for me, softball, and then just to learn from a high caliber coach like him. And then I wanted to go somewhere not in Texas, as weird as that sounds. I wanted to kind of branch out and go like further, like hours drive outside of Texas. So naturally Indiana fit that bill. I also wanted to go somewhere where there was snow, as weird as that is, but I just wanted to kind of experience that. But I now know that I'm not a cold weather person. I like being in the Texas heat. So yeah, it was just kind of like I just made the list of what I wanted out of my college experience. And then once I visited Ball State, it was like, check, check, check. Everything is like, this is just awesome. It's what I want to do. This is what I want to experience. And it was just a really great fit.
When you were going through your softball career, younger wise, high school and all that stuff, when did you kind of realize that you had that ability, that you had a shot at Division I softball?
I think I don't know if I realized I had that ability. I think I just told myself like, this is what you want to do. This is what I want to do. And then I just worked from there. I think it was when I was 8 years old, I went with my travel ball team to Oklahoma City, where the College World Series are held at Hall of Fame Stadium. And I walked in, and saw the crowd and the atmosphere, and I saw Jenny Finch throwing on the mound for Arizona, and I just really instantly connected with her. Like, we have the same name, we got blonde hair. I was a pitcher at the time, so really connected with her, and I just knew like, oh my gosh, like it was just kind of like an aha moment that I want to play on this field. I want to play high level softball. And then, so that was the goal. And then I kind of just, worked, practiced, made sure that I was doing all the right things to get me to where I wanted to go.
Now, you went to Ball State, and to say that you had a successful career would be a vast understatement, because you own just about every offensive MAC record that there is to own when you left Ball State. What worked so well for you over those 4 years as a Cardinal?
I think just putting in the extra work. For me personally, I need a lot of reps. So I would show up early to practice like 2 hours every single day to hit off the tee and to have somebody pitch to me. And like that just worked for me. And I knew that that's what I needed as a player to succeed for our program. So yeah, I think just putting in the extra work and knowing what kind of player I was and what I needed, that's what I say kind of fueled the success for me. Yeah.
And your team had a lot of success too, as a Ball State. And you have a lot of rings for that MAC tournament. And that's one of the reasons, and the MAC is in the news right now, they decided to cut a lot of their school tournaments, including softball. So what was your reaction when you kind of saw that news?
Yeah, I was really confused. I was like, so are they not going to have like postseason, or like how is the MAC going to be like represented in postseason? And I'd actually reached out to one of my former players who is now going to be a COVID 5th year senior, if that's the term for it. She said that there's not going to be a tournament. It's just going to be the regular season champion will go on to the regionals. And I was like, oh yeah, that's how it should have been, like the entire time, in my opinion, because you can, you win weekend after weekend after weekend, and you're like the most consistent with being the regular season champion because you've won the whole thing after months of playing in conference. And then, anybody can have a great weekend for the MAC tournament. And so I think just to have the best represented team is going to be the most consistent team that wins. So, I think this is how it should have been all along. Not to say that I didn't love playing in the MAC tournament, but I think to have the best represented MAC squad, you have to send the regular season champion.
Yeah, and to the other side, there are those teams in the MAC that probably maybe finished third or something in the regular season. Very competitive teams, had a good season, have a legitimate shot to win the tournament, and they rely on that tournament to get to the NCAA championship because not a lot of at-large bids coming out of the MAC.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But the other people that are kind of smiling are the Power 5 conferences, I imagine, because now those teams that kind of win the MAC aren't stealing at large bids off of Power 5 conference teams.
Yeah, of course. And that's just something that like we can't really control, unfortunately. We can only play the best competition in preseason and then hopefully to raise our RPI numbers. But until if that ever changes, that's just gonna kind of what you're gonna have to work with. But my favorite thing about postseason is that, or preseason, excuse me, that you can just really like play the toughest competition, and then that way you just learn so much about your team. What works, what doesn't work, where players should play, where they shouldn't play, and kind of just like piece together your puzzle for conference where it really matters.
Do you think that no conference tournament will make these MAC schools kind of take them preseason a little bit more seriously and try to up that RPI because they're not going to get a automatic bid after winning the tournament?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think when you're not relying on like one weekend, I think, it absolutely raises the stakes, and it's going to make our conference better, I think, in the long run.
What was your favorite MAC tournament memory?
I would have to say 2015. That was when I was the volunteer assistant, and that's when we won the tournament for the first time since 2010. And we ended up going to Notre Dame's regional and beating Notre Dame in game 1 in their own regional. So that was just a huge thing for our program to accomplish. And even though I wasn't playing, I was just so excited that that's how my coaching career had started. But yeah, I would say 2015.
And that was a team that I guess a lot of people kind of had lower expectations for because they lost a lot of seniors. They lost you, they lost other girls, and they kind of put that chip on their shoulder and went and did it.
Yeah, it was. I remember Lauren Seiler. She was one of my best friends on the team, and it was kind of weird because I was now her coach, and she was, one of the players, obviously still. But she was kind of like, Jenny, like, I'm really upset by these comments that people are saying, like Ball State isn't good anymore, and like I don't know how to, get over that. And I told her, like, Lo, like, we're not going to be the same team. Like, we might not hit as many home runs, and there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that we're not going to win. And it's just, that's what happens with programs. Like, you lose players, but you gain new ones. And it's always going to be a little different. And I think that's the beauty of softball is like not one player makes an entire team. There's not one way to win. Like, there's so many different elements in our game that can be used to be successful. So, but yeah, I love the fact that people said that about us because like that's like Ball State. Like, that's how you're going to get like us to really like just like go all out, is to basically just like, oh, like whatever. Like, so like, yeah, doubt us like all the time. Like we're always the underdog, and we've always succeeded in that underdog role.
And in this blog, I'm going to highlighted a girl from that we cover that is going to be signing to the MAC. Sheridan Wilbur will be going to Akron. What should she expect from MAC softball the next 4 years?
It's going to be different, right, without the tournament being there. But, obviously she's not going to know any different. But I think, like, the MAC is very gritty. Like, I absolutely love the fact that our MAC schools can go and take down, like, a top 25 school. Like, specifically Kent took down Baylor. a few years ago with one of my Team Canada teammates, Holly Spears. When I was at Ball State, we had actually played Coach Nicholson when he was at Arizona State in his first year, and we beat them 3-1. Ball State's beat Missouri. Ohio's another great program. Toledo's another great program as well, and Central Michigan. And I think there's just so many great things about the MAC, and like just being a mid-major and going on and we can hang with these top 25 schools.
One thing that when I look at the MAC, the caliber of coaching at every program is just so deep. When you look at the coaching staffs in the MAC, can you kind of second that?
Yeah, I mean, I won't be too biased here, but Ball State has an absolutely wonderful staff. You can just see Josh Johnson. He was with me on staff. He's now at Mississippi State. The gentleman that had came in after me is now at Tulsa. Coach Bartlett played in the NPF and for Notre Dame. And then Coach Jeremy has played for, I believe, New Zealand national team. He was a men's pitcher. And then their new addition was a volunteer at Georgia. And then just like so many other coaches, I'm going to blank on their names, but Central Michigan has always had a great staff. Ohio has always had a great staff. And then not just, the coaches that were there when I played, they're now at higher level schools. And so I think the MAC is such a breeding ground for not only softball talent, but also coaching talent.
Now let's go back to draft night 2014. First year where the NPF really started to draft more players, and 10th pick comes along and you hear your name called. What's that feeling like?
I screamed, and I think my teammates also screamed a little louder, but it's just an experience you can't really compare to anything else that would happen. Just to know that all of your hard work has gotten you to this point, and you're sitting on your couch with your college teammates your senior year, and that there's thousands of people watching across the country, and they hear your name. And it was so exciting, and I'm so happy that it was Akron. I absolutely loved my time playing there. I still talk to Joey Arrieta. She is like my mom. I call her Mama Bear all the time, and she's just such a special person and has been such a strong influence in my life, and I'm sure other people's lives, not only racers, but people that have played on other teams. And she's just so loving, so genuine, takes care of everybody that comes to her, and she's always willing to go the extra mile for people. So just my time as a racer was probably one of the few honors of my life.
And you weren't a late round, you were a 10th pick. I mean, that's a big deal. What kind of honor was that for you?
It was really exciting. I mean, I didn't notice that. I didn't even know that I was the first outfielder taken until someone had told me the day after. But yeah, I mean, again, to my earlier point, to know that it was just, it was good validation. Not that I needed validation, but it was cool to say yeah, I was the first outfielder taken.
What were your first kind of days and practices with a professional team like, and realizing that you already took a step to college and Division I, but now you had to take another step up and play professionally?
Yeah, practices were definitely not eye-opening because I expected it to be the next level, but I think just getting a taste of what professional ball was like. And I kind of dwelled on my experiences with the national team to kind of help me with that, because I knew the levels were similar. But I think once we got to games, it was oh my goodness, this is the hardest level that I've ever played at. Nothing really compares to it. You're literally facing the best players in the world on a everyday basis, and just the level of competition and the amount of failure that I experienced those first few years, it just really molded me into the player I am today.
And we would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that you are on a national team and you will be competing in the Olympics come 2020. When you hear that you're going to be competing in 2021. When you hear that you're going to be competing in the Olympics, that's got to make you feel just unbelievably happy.
Yeah. So actually our team has not been named yet, but fingers crossed that I will be competing in 2020, 2021. But yeah, just to have that, that like on my shoulders and know that I'm competing for a spot on our Olympic team. It just kind of, it comes full circle. Like the dream that I had when I was little, like after I had kind of started following Jenny Finch and keeping up with her. And I learned that she played for Team USA. And I told my mom, like, softball's in the Olympics. And she said, yeah, like you could play for your country and, you know, play softball in the Olympics and be an Olympian. And I immediately said, like, I want to play for Canada. And she said, okay, like, that's great, sweetie. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but I believe that you can do it. And I said, yeah, well, I am going to do it. So I was just like, such like this, like bratty 8-year-old, like, I'm going to do it. And so like, yeah, 20 years later, here we are. But yeah, it just kind of almost, you tear up thinking about like all the excitement that comes with being an Olympian. It's a truly life-changing thing.
And with COVID-19, obviously the Olympics are postponed, the NPF season canceled. What kind of things are you doing now during the summer to kind of keep yourself ready and keep yourself in shape when there's no softball to play?
Yeah, so we actually have our strength coach for the national team. He's been sending us programs to do. So I'm fortunate because it kind of is based on what equipment you have at your home, because obviously we can't go to the gym with COVID. So we're doing a lot of like body weight stuff. And it's also, oops, sorry, my battery says that it's dying, but I'm also plugged in. So it just kind of depends on what equipment you have, but for the most part, we all have the same amount of equipment. So just doing like some weight workouts. We still have our ESG, which is our cardio. And then I am enjoying this time because we've been able to put softball down for a little bit. So I kind of really get to focus on the physical part and like the conditioning part of training. So yeah, I mean, we Canadians, we don't stop. The foot is on the gas. So yeah, we're still grinding it out.
And what kind of advice would you give to these seniors? I mean, we cover high school, so these seniors that have completely lost the senior season, they don't get it back. There's no fifth year for high school. What kind of advice would you give these young women?
Well, first I would say I'm so sorry because I can't imagine that being cut short. I know that not everybody chooses to go on to play college softball. So, and I know, speak from experience, like obviously softball brings a lot of joy to our lives and to our families' lives. And I would say like just focus on what you can control. I know that it's such a cliche, but it's the more that I've like really learned that concept and like made myself abide by it and live by it, it just lifts so much weight off of my shoulders. And just find things that bring you joy like softball has. I know a lot of kids, they're like, softball is done, my life is over. And I feel bad for them because like there's so much more to life than softball. And that's coming from me. And I'm, you know, sitting here 28 years old and I'm still playing. And like, obviously, like I'm not letting it go anytime soon. But I've found like other interests that spark joy in my life. And so I'm not like so, I guess like it's gonna help you to not be so distraught by what's happened. But yeah, it sucks. I know it is. And it's unfortunate, but there is so much more that you as a former softball player, current softball player, has to offer the world.
And have some fun with you before we let you go. What has been your favorite like in-home quarantine activity that you've been doing over the last couple months?
Mm. I would say cooking, but I'm gonna go ahead and say cooking. I wasn't really much of a cook in college. I kind of was like the person that did the dishes at the end when we would all have like our house dinner together. But I really kind of taken on things that I like wasn't really good at to begin with and kind of learning as I go. But yeah, like I'm becoming a pretty good cook. Like I'm gonna be able to cook some really good meals. And like there's so many things that I love to do, like with like potatoes and like eggs and fish and all that stuff, and getting like really crafty like Pinterest type of stuff. And we planted our own food in the garden because I live on a farm, just throwing that out there. So we have like a lot of food growing in our garden, and it's like finally starting to, like, we can pick it. And so yeah, like getting kind of crafty with that has been like, it's been pretty fun.
All right, Jen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It's great catching up to you, and obviously I'm rooting for you at everything that you do.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm so glad that we could catch up and chat.